Today's guest is Mark Irvine. PPC Hero named Mark the #1 most influential PPC expert of 2019. Microsoft Advertising named him the Influencer of the Year in 2019. I'm not sure if there's a list of PPC experts he's not on. Until very recently, Mark served as the Director of Strategic Partnerships at Wordstream. At the time this episode is airing, Mark is pursuing new career opportunities. If you're hiring, reach out to him on Twitter before it's too late. He's a well-known presenter and frequent keynote speaker at conferences all over the world. He presented at 17 conferences in 2019 alone, including Pubcon, SMX Advanced, Hero Conf, and Wordstream Live. Mark's background is in data science, and his writing is packed with data-driven research. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Mark and the rest of the team at Wordstream have done some amazing work. I'm going to ask him about the myriad ways that our traditional understanding of paid search is changing. Mark joined me to drink some summer ales and talk about PPC research he's recently done. Plus, we talk about how to navigate the craziest year of our lives. Mark Irvine, welcome to Suds and Search. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing well. It's a very interesting time to be on this, but quite frankly, never a bad time to have a drink and talk about search.
I'm catching you at an interesting moment. I have a mango starfish summer ale from Great South Bay. Would you like to have a beer with me to talk it over?
I'd love to have a beer with you.
All right, let's do a virtual cheers. What are you having?
Cheers. I have a Wachusett blueberry ale. I'm very simple. I'm very basic during the summer. Sorry, I'm very basic all the time, but particularly during the summer. And so this is a blueberry ale, and I even have some blueberries in it.
It sounds like a perfect summer beer. I have so many places I want to go here, but one of the things I want to compliment you and your team at Wordstream about is all the research you've done on COVID. And so, full disclosure, Search Lab is we use Wordstream, so I want to make sure that's out there. But you have had a number of really great posts about it and about how this is going on. And there's a lot of counterintuitive things that I learned from you about this. Like, we always assume that mobile traffic is going up exponentially and Google's mobile first. What is actually going on right now?
So it's really fascinating to, of course, hear that people read that stuff, because that is always one of those things. Like, when a change happens on the SERP or when a change happens in our environment, I'm really curious about data and I want to see how it's all coming. And Wordstream was a great place to have not just your data, but data from other agencies and data from 30,000 other advertisers and really aggregate that. Similarly, I think that the biggest thing to come out of COVID and on the search side is that a lot of the things that we've learned over the past 5-6 years out the window.
Right.
A lot of the trends we just stopped, just like your show stopped being in a brewery come March, we all had to relearn exactly what was going on. So the last 100 days have been a whirlwind, because it's not just your accounts, but it's a lot of advertisers that aren't necessarily speaking about the things that they've doing, the things that they've always said they were doing, the things that they were telling their clients they would do because it would be successful for them, all of a sudden are going to have some less meaningful impact. With respect to mobile, there is a huge change as a result of half of humanity being under some kind of stay-at-home order. So for year after year after year, Google made that big announcement: this is the year of mobile traffic growing, mobile traffic continues to grow, majority. All of that is still very true. However, as we all became less mobile, our device of choice was similarly less mobile. And so when we start talking about, I'm here in my 700 square foot apartment in Boston, I've been in my 700 square foot apartment in Boston for 100 days now, I still use my phone. My phone's right there, but I'm using my desktop a whole lot more frequently than I did in the past, and consequently I'm searching more on my desktop than I did in the past. We see the fact that people are now going back, and people are almost more now desktop first in a COVID environment, because we're all working from home. And when we're not working from home, we're still digesting our media, we're doing research all on desktop computers rather than our mobile devices. We're still using them, but it's different. So there's this strong shift back. And even as states reopen, countries reopen, although legally we can go anywhere, do anything, there's still a hesitant to go out. People are still less mobile than they were before. You look at the data, if you looked at people's mobility being down 60% at the beginning of the crisis, across the US, now that number is still down 30%. People are returning to mobile, but all said and done, we're still more desktop focused than we were previously.
It's really interesting. I started to think of the implications of this. So how would I change if I knew that? And one of the things you point out that's really smart is that, because a lot of people are on Windows machines, Bing might be an interesting option for you.
Bing is really interesting because you're getting a lot of these searches that people don't recognize that they're binging, and they're beginning that search on their desktop device more frequently. That then translates maybe to a Google mobile search or something like that further down the line. But Bing is actually finding its own audience and not being opportunistic during all of this, but certainly finding its own niche during the pandemic, and is not hurting to the same extent that a lot of people who rely on Google are, because a lot of us who relied on all of these great mobile benefits, these app campaigns, these call-only campaigns, these mobile optimized campaigns on Google, well, now all of a sudden, like, their Bing campaigns are doing really fantastically, not because Bing has changed, not because Google has changed, but just because of the consumer behaviors have suddenly changed because we're all in our apartments.
Yeah, and I love this. There are so many ways that you could start to think about this differently. So and you have these just like unbelievable research projects that you do, and we should get into how you even have this data how you had this data at your fingertips. But the other one I love was that internet usage is up 50%. All the while Google searches are down. That seems counterintuitive to me. So where are savvy advertisers spending their money right now?
So yeah, it's a very difficult position to be very Google heavy right now.
Right.
We're all at home. When I'm at home, my fun task isn't, my distraction from all of this isn't search. Right. And worst of all, our search habits during coronavirus happen to all center around this pandemic, yes. Right? So those are not, coronavirus itself is not a commercial keyword, but it is now the #1 most searched thing on Google. More searched than the weather, more searched than sports, more searched than politics, more searched than porn. And so search suddenly takes this hit in the pandemic. Our distractions, YouTube, Gmail, I finally cleaned out my Gmail for the first time in years, display, social usage is up significantly. Up significantly, and it's a really interesting play, because if you're talking about like a North American advertiser, Facebook, Instagram, those are North America, Europe, like their developed markets had been pretty stagnant for years. As we all have to go to social media to socialize with one another, we're not running into each other at bars, we're not running into each other in person all too frequently. Social media becomes a necessity for a lot of these places. And specifically, a lot of the areas that social is really seeing an uptick on are the areas that advertisers have been more hesitant to get really involved in. Things like Messenger, things like Instagram, things like stories. Those kinds of areas that are under monetized are right now the #1 areas where people are using social more frequently.
I love this. I think this is so interesting to like reprogram your brain for this. The other way that I've thought about it, you mentioned in a different podcast, I saw that I've always known this to be the statistic. It's like 15% of all searches on Google are brand new. They've never been searched for before. Mm-hmm. And now that is up, and that's like up like 20%, which is an enormous increase.
Right.
Up to 20%, I should say, not up 20%, up to 20%.
There was a point during early April in which my numbers were saying like 25%.
Whoa.
But so that was like 1 out of 4 searches were searches that we had never seen before in our data. And that generally sits around 15%. 15% is still wild.
A lot, right.
We're at 2020 and we're still getting people who are searching for things that have never happened before. At 25%, we are having searches. Americans are having searches asking if McDonald's is open.
Yeah.
Questions that we never, how can gas prices be negative?
Yeah.
Questions that we have never had before, but now people are not just having, but they're having in mass, and how it relates to your brand specifically. It's all new. The fact that we have to go online. No one is going window shopping anymore. Everyone starts this search. Everyone starts this shopping experience online. If you remember years ago, the buzzword was showrooming, where people would go into a store and they would start a search while looking at the product, and they'd compare your prices to Amazon and they'd check your reviews and all of that. We're doing the exact opposite of showrooming now, where before we can even go into your store, we're checking to see if you're open, and we're learning about what you're offering during these crazy times.
Amazing. The other implication of this I could think of, I look at a search terms report as a way to sometimes mine for negatives. Mm-hmm. You might use that differently now. That becomes your contactless, ad group that you want to create. Is that totally changed now, do you think?
And so it's not, I think that of course you're going to want to address this with negatives and with new keywords as people are now searching for new things. I think that the larger opportunity towards this is, very factually, I spend all day looking through this data. It's changing so quickly. I think that where we as advertisers have the huge benefit is that we can lean in on seeing what people are searching for, and we understand empathetically why they're searching for this, what they're searching for. We talk about in the past 24 hours, we're having a whole lot of conversation about visas and international travel restrictions and all of this stuff. Google might pick up on the trends for people searching for that and their smart bidding algorithms, all of that, in the next 48 hours or so. Right now, we as marketers, we have that ability to go in and leverage the fact all right, people are now looking for this for a very specific reason. I can now intervene and change my ad copy because I see this trend coming through. I understand the news that's coming through. This is the potential for me to add in that new headline, that description into my responsive search ads so that Google can optimize this out to the right people.
Love it. Yeah, I think all of this is so interesting, and I really liked what you did. You've had a few updates to this post now where you'll slice and dice it by industry. And there were a few, it's kind of who's feeling the pain the most, who's kind of got a mixed bag, and who's actually surprisingly doing well. The one that surprised me, the things that are doing well, some not surprising. Health, people are searching for health all the time. That's not too surprising. Real estate, people are looking for real estate more. And that was in the winners column was a little bit surprising to me.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Particularly having spent my time in this tiny apartment, I would love nothing more than to go out and buy a place right now. And I was doing that math of economic recession means people are going to sell. This is impacting older people more significantly. I was not hoping, but expecting that more homes would be on the market and that this would be a buyer's market. Joke's on me. It's done a lot of the opposite of what you'd expect, because now what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to open my newspaper and go to an open house. I'm not going to go visit those kinds of, when you do this, you get in your car and you drive around, you find a couple of listings, and throughout the course of a weekend, you somehow find the place that you're going to buy. Now we have to go and we have to turn either to online realtors and get that virtual tour, or we have to book an appointment with a realtor to get this tour. And it's this one-on-one experience. It's a very different way that the industry is reacting than we've seen it go in the past couple of years. And that's kind of just us relearning the last like 10 years of the industry. So it's really interesting because what hasn't changed is the internet is still available to us. It's a tool for us to do business today, but how we rely on it in our paid search efforts or our paid marketing efforts is quickly changing. So even when we have conversations of like restaurants are certainly an industry that's struggling.
Yeah.
Those who were smart and got their paid search programs up quickly captured this whole large audience who is now looking for some kind of solution. And if all it takes is being a small restaurant and having a basic paid search program is hugely impactful when everyone else in your area doesn't advertise online.
I wanted to ask you about this because I thought for sure restaurants and hospitality would be in the losers column, but it's sort of in the mix because the cost per click of these things has plummeted.
Yeah.
So it's become almost a value investment for restaurant and hospitality people. I would say, honestly, this is one area where I have personally seen ads on Facebook and bought because of online advertising, which is something I don't always do because it's so saturated for me. But yes, I'm guilty.
It's really interesting because I feel like I traveled in the before times. I traveled a whole lot, and I was always very comfortable like doing a Google search and trying to understand like what's around in my area. And now I very often feel like I'm traveling, despite the fact like Boston is a new city to me because half the things are closed and operations are completely different. So we're all like rediscovering our neighborhoods right now. It's really nice because I'm like finding restaurants that I wouldn't have normally found. I'm finding new businesses that I wouldn't have normally gone to during this time. And that does foster some loyalty, or I hope that it fosters some loyalty in me thereafter once all of this is over. So the cost to acquire a customer, like people are still out there, they're still searching, they're still buying. You just really need to think about like how do you position and how do you find that right solution for people during this time. And I'm seeing like a lot of advertisers specifically are finding success with that.
Oh, I love it. I'd say one of the things I did bury the lead. And so you are, if not the top, 2019, you were literally the top PPC influencer in America, in the world. Not just on PPC Hero, but I think other places too, like Microsoft had you as the number one. So
yeah, thanks for doing your research.
I did do my research. So I heard you say you almost won the Triple Crown last year. So it's really amazing. You're looking for opportunities now. What are you looking to do?
Yeah, no, the mighty have fallen. Right now, recently I was laid off from Wordstream. Part of being a platform that's built off of SMBs means that when SMBs are very hurt across the board, some struggles with that. And I leave on good terms. I wish the best to the team, and I know that my programs will out-survive me there. But with that, like it could also be a blessing and an opportunity in disguise. This is a great time for me to think about exactly what I want to go out there and I want to do. I really do enjoy working with small businesses and building some programs that can scale. I started at Wordstream back in 2013. We were 39 people. You might not have recognized us other than Larry Kim. Today we've grown that team, we've grown our clients, and I'm really proud of what I leave behind. I want to do something very similar. I want to do something very similar either with a platform or an agency that's willing to build out a program and really want to be a leader in the space. So my DMs are wide open.
Well, my only stressor here is I have to get this video out because you're going to get hired here very quickly. And so if we could do anything, you have a chance to get Mark Irvine. You got to do it. Anybody who's watching this, make sure you call him. His DMs are open, and it's an amazing opportunity. These things people like you don't come along very often. So.
Thank you. But I am hoping that like there are going to be thousands of other Mark Irvines in years to come. So I'm happy to help you build a team of me if you like.
Fantastic. Well, you are also a very fun person to have a beer with, and I've really enjoyed talking to you. Thank you for all your work during COVID. really, there's not enough of this like data-driven research. It's really interesting. I would point anyone, I know you're not at the company anymore, but your research will still be on the website. I would recommend anybody go to the Wordstream site, check out these studies. We'll put links in the show notes to make sure people can find some of the stuff I've referenced. And make sure you reach out to Mark if you're looking for the best PPC person in the world. So, you know, I appreciate you coming on Suds and Search, and look forward to meeting you in person, hopefully soon when we can travel again.
Yeah, likewise. I'm so ready to get out of here.
I hear you. Yeah, I've seen you on many webinars in that 700 square foot apartment, so I can understand. Well, Mark, let's do a final cheers. Thanks again for coming on, and
Cheers.
I will see you next time on Suds and Search.
See you soon. Thank you, Mark.